IELTS Listening, version K0009. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. Write all your answers in the listening question booklet. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to Section 1 on page 2 of your question booklet. Section 1. You will hear a telephone conversation about Winsham Farm, a residential education centre. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4 on page 2. You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Hello, Winsham Farm Centre.
Oh, hello. I want to arrange a weekend away for myself and some people from work, and we heard about your centre. I wonder if you could give me some details.
Yes, certainly. We are a residential centre attached to a working farm, and we organise educational activities for those guests who want them. What else would you like to know?
The caller wishes to arrange a weekend away for himself and some colleagues, so option C has been circled. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Hello, Winsham Farm Centre.
Oh, hello. I want to arrange a weekend away for myself and some people from work, and we heard about your centre. I wonder if you could give me some details.
Yes, certainly. We are a residential centre attached to a working farm, and we organise educational activities for those guests who want them. What else would you like to know?
Well, firstly, what kind of accommodation have you got?
We've got 8 rooms altogether, and we can sleep 38 at any one time. 3 of the rooms have got 6 bunks, and 5 of them have got 4 bunks.
Right, and what other facilities are there?
We have separate toilets and showers for each of the rooms. There's a large dining room and a large meeting room, which can be booked by groups in advance. But I'm afraid we had a flood in there last month, and the floor was slightly damaged, so unfortunately it's out of use just now. We've got workmen coming in next week. When were you thinking of staying?
In 3 weeks' time, the 28th of September.
Oh, it should be okay by then.
Oh, well, that's okay then. And what about food? Do you provide meals or is it self-catering?
We're very flexible. As long as you give us enough notice, we can cater for you. Or, if you prefer, you can just bring your own food and use the kitchen facilities. And some people prefer to eat out, which is also fine.
Fine. And I heard that your farm is organic. Does that mean that you only have crops and no animals?
It doesn't, actually. A lot of people seem to think that, but we do rear livestock as well. And so we have a wide range of food. Organic means it's all produced without the use of artificial fertilisers or pesticides.
I see. That sounds good. Could you tell me what sort of recreational activities are available, either at the centre or in the area?
Yes. Here at the centre, we offer farm tours. They're very popular. One of the farm managers shows people around and explains some of the principles of organic farming. And for any visitors who are really keen, he'll let them drive a tractor or feed the animals and so on. With supervision, of course.
I think a lot of our group would be interested in that. It'd make a change from factory work.
Well, if they fancy it, tell them to come prepared. Plenty of old clothing, especially footwear. It can be very messy and wet.
Okay, I'll warn them.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10 on page 3. Now listen and answer questions 5 to 10.
And another type of activity we do is survival courses, but that's only for groups of 5 or more, and they've got to be acquaintances. They have to cooperate closely. These courses are very popular, especially with school groups, but adults seem to enjoy them too.
What do they involve? Things like map reading?
Well, not exactly. What it is, we've got a large area of woodland on the farm, and we run this course there. It's mainly about collecting food and water, lighting a fire without any equipment, that kind of thing.
This weekend could be hard work. What about the area around the center? What is there to do?
If you look at a map, you'll see that we're very well situated here. Our centre's about midway between the Exmoor National Park, which is very popular for hill walking, and the South Coast, which has very good beaches.
Are they both within walking distance?
Well, they're both a bit far, unless you're very fit, but they're only about 30 minutes by road. And there's also a cycle path, which starts quite near here, about 10 minutes walk away. You can hire bikes at the starting point.
What is there to do if the weather's bad? I hope it won't be, but you never know.
Yes, that's right. Well, on most Saturday evenings we show films here, and then once a month a group of local musicians performs in our meeting room. And then Sherborne is only 14 miles away. It's only a small town, but it's got a very good museum and an old abbey, which is well worth a visit.
Well, it sounds perfect for our purposes. One last thing. What about prices? I'm not sure yet, but there'll probably be about 15 of us.
We charge a standard £14 a head for accommodation, whether there are 10 or 20 of you or whatever, and about £7 for cooked meals, depending on the menu you want. Use of the kitchen facilities is extra, as is the hire of the meeting room. It depends really what exactly you want and for how many people.
Right. Well, I've made a note of all that, and I'll discuss it with the rest of the group. Then I'll get back to you with a firm booking. Can I do that by phone?
Yes, you can. But once you've made a booking, we would need a deposit within 5 days to secure it. Then you just pay the balance when you're here.
Oh, yes, of course. Could you give me the address, please?
Yes. It's Winsham Farm, Coteale Road, that's Cotehle, near Sherborne. And the postcode is SH12 1LQ.
Thank you.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2 on page 4. Section 2. You will hear a program on a student radio station. It describes the findings of a survey on vacation jobs taken by students the previous year. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16 on page 4. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Welcome to student life. It's spring, and many of you may be thinking about arranging work for the long vacation. So on today's programme, Roger Enwell reports on a survey we conducted into the pleasures and problems of vacation jobs. Roger.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, the first thing to say is that by far the majority of students we surveyed did just 3 types of jobs. All of these obviously had their advantages and disadvantages. Starting with stock taking in supermarkets. The thing that students said they enjoyed most about this job was the travelling. They were often required to go to branches to do their stock takes, and this was regarded as an interesting plus. The main negative, however, was that they tended to find the job tiring, with long hours spent on their feet and climbing high shelves. Now, one thing we did ask the students in our survey was whether they had any recommendations for other people taking on their job, and they said, perhaps not surprisingly, get good shoes. That's the only way you can keep going. Another job which lots of students did was office work, and the positive feature of this actually rather surprised me, until I remembered what a hot summer it was last year. Lots of students named air conditioning as the best thing about office work. The downside, which many talked about, was wearing formal clothes. Obviously, this didn't go down too well with students. The advice most people gave was to select a large office. That way you have more variety of social contacts. Otherwise, the work can get very boring. The third job, which had attracted large numbers of students, was as a theme park attendant. And again, I got a surprise here, because the big plus people talked about was good pay. It must have improved since my day, I must say. Anyway, the downside I did recognise, having to deal with difficult customers, especially in the heat when tempers get frayed. Not easy. And people said that it was a good idea to live nearby, because there's a lot of shift work, and you don't have to worry about transport at difficult times of the day.
Before you hear the rest of the programme, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20 on page 5. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
So, those were the findings from the survey on the most common student jobs. But not all student jobs have to be mundane and boring. One of the students who responded in our survey spoke at length about his amazing job as a zoo attendant. Peter Marshall had read about work opportunities on the zoo website and just went along with a friend to talk to someone in personnel. He was offered a job there and then, as easy as that. In previous years, he'd done singularly unexciting shop work, so he was very pleased to be doing such original work. He ended up working for just under 3 months, which was actually slightly more than he'd anticipated, and meant that he had to miss part of university term time. But he said it was well worth it, because he thinks he's found his future career path as a result of this experience. He loved working on the educational side, in particular helping young kids understand about the animals in their natural environment. He said it was the most intriguing thing he'd ever done. He tells us, though, that with final exams coming up, he won't be able to do any paid work this coming vacation, so why don't you apply? If you're interested in getting further information about the findings of the survey...
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 3 on page 6. Section 3. You will hear 3 geology students, Andy, Bob and Helen, talking about forming a study syndicate for their forthcoming examinations. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25 on page 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Right then, are we ready? Bob? Helen?
Yeah?
And is someone taking notes for John? He's at a tutorial, isn't he?
Yeah, I'll let him know what we agree.
Good. Okay, well, first thing is, has anyone apart from me actually been in a study syndicate before?
No.
What does it actually involve, Andy?
Well, the idea is that it's a way for students to study together without a teacher.
Oh, yeah, right.
When I did it last time, I found it helpful because, well, as I said, there's no teacher, so it means we're teaching one another. And I found I really learnt a lot through having to teach it myself. It seemed a very good way to learn.
And presumably it gives us the chance to share ideas as well.
And you get fuller notes if you're all doing the reading.
That's right. And as well as that, because of that really, you can do, much deeper research. So I thought we could try it to revise what we've done on the geology course. Because I know this is the one that most of us are worried about, the geology exam.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
So the idea is we all look at a different topic from the geology course, and then give a presentation and talk about it?
That's right. I've drawn up the framework of a table which might be useful. Here, I've made a copy.
Oh,
Oh,
thanks.
thanks.
For the first topic, I thought we could maybe do mountain building. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure. Actually, would you mind if I did that? I'm quite interested in it.
Right.
Right.
So is May 9th okay for that?
Yeah.
I'll just write that down, and it's Bob for mountain building. And the following week, it can't be May 16th because of our tutorial. But what about the 17th?
Okay.
And what about the next topic? What would be the next priority?
Well, there's glaciated areas, but I don't want to do that.
Fair enough.
Actually, I don't mind having a bash. I did an assignment on them. Glaciated areas, Andy. Then we need someone to do rock formation. Helen?
Yeah, okay. And John said he'd like to too, so you can put us both down for that.
When?
May 23rd would be best.
Rock formation, Helen and John. Right. That really only leaves 1 week before the exams. Shall we make it on the 30th?
I can't make it, I'm afraid.
29th of May? The exam's on June 3rd.
Have to be. Okay.
Any ideas for a topic?
John said he wouldn't mind doing something on volcanoes.
Great. That's everyone then.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30 on page 7. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
And how long should these presentations be?
Well, it's obviously up to us. In my experience, 30 minutes is about enough.
Maybe a bit short. I'd have thought 40 minutes would be more like it.
Well, shall we say 30 to 40 minutes?
Okay. And presumably time for questions.
And discussion.
Yes, together they usually take about 20 minutes.
Where shall we get the information from? Is it mainly lecture notes?
Well, actually, I suggest we avoid those because we already have all that information. I think it's better to go more deeply.
We could use the bibliography.
And anything else we find in the library, any other books.
And articles, from the journals.
And then, of course, there's lots of stuff on the internet.
Yes, that's the sort of thing.
And what about the presentations? Will we just be talking? Presumably we can't use slides.
It'd be a bit difficult, but we can use the OHB.
And the whiteboard, of course.
And we can make photocopies of our notes so everyone can have a copy.
Yes, great. So is there anything else?
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4 on page 8.
Section 4. You will hear part of a student presentation about a type of frog called the African clawed frog. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40 on page 7. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
The aim of our study was to look at how naturally occurring substances can be used to treat infections, and we carried out a laboratory study using a frog called the African clawed frog, which has the scientific name Xenopus laevis. So, before I describe our study in detail, let me give you a general description about this frog. Like most other frogs, the African clawed frogs have a smooth skin. This is one way you can distinguish them from toads, whose skin is rough, and they can change the color of their skin to blend in with their surroundings. The surface of their skin also has another feature. It's covered with a layer of mucus. This makes it hard for other creatures to pick them up, and so it provides protection against predators. How big are they? Well, it depends on whether they're male or female, because the females in this case are a whole lot bigger than the males. A large-sized female may be 8 inches long, while the males are about half that size, so they're pretty small in comparison. What about their natural habitat? As their name suggests, these frogs are native to Africa, and they're found in most parts of Africa south of the Sahara Desert. They make their houses in fresh water, but they're rarely found in running streams. They like still water. As far as the temperature of the water goes, they're not too fussy. It can be warm or cool. They don't need to be in water where there are plants growing, and they can live in water that has quite a lot of salt in it, so they can live in brackish areas such as marshes and estuaries. However, although they can live in a wide range of conditions, one thing that they are unable to tolerate is even very small traces of metal. That's immediately fatal to them. And that's important to remember when they're being kept in captivity. You've got to be careful what kind of tank you use and what you put into the water. In their natural habitat, The frogs normally live in water the whole time, but in unfavorable conditions, such as drought, they can burrow into the mud and survive there for up to a year until conditions improve. As far as their diet is concerned, they're carnivorous. They eat other creatures they find in the water. And they're scavengers, which means they'll eat almost anything, living or dead. They've got huge appetites. Because the water they live in is often quite dirty and visibility is limited, they can't locate their food using their sense of sight. Instead, they use smell and also the sensitive fingers on their front legs. And they also have what's called a lateral line system on the sides of their bodies, which is sensitive to vibrations in the water. They use their front legs to get the food into their mouths, together with a type of pump arrangement that sucks the food into the mouth and down into their stomach. They don't have any teeth, so everything just goes straight down. Okay, well, although Xenopus started off in Africa, they're now quite widespread. One of the reasons for this is that a lot of people in the U.S. like keeping them at home as a pet. They're quite easy to look after, and they can live for up to 20 years. But in some states of the U.S., such as California and Virginia, they have escaped from captivity and are reproducing in the wild and threatening native species there. So they've been classified as a pest in these areas. But another very important use for the frogs is for research in laboratories. Because the females lay large numbers of eggs and the embryos are transparent, it's easy to see how they are developing, and so they're used for research into genetics and development. But also, the slippery mucus that covers their skin acts as an antibiotic, killing parasites and bacteria. And this is why we chose this frog for our research. So, let me describe the aim of our study. We wanted...
That is the end of Section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.